Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be at the MSHED this morning. And I didn't realize we were going to have Chris on before. And as I go through what I'm going to talk about, many of the things he was saying will resonate with you. But if I was to ask you how many people in this room want a happy and successful journey through their life, I'm sure that most, if not all, would agree. But before I actually start, I would like to ask a question of you. How many of you in this room today have a mentor in your life? If you just put your hand up, 25-30%. Mentoring is really powerful, and you notice that Chris said he had no self-worth. The first area mentoring really helps you is creates your self-esteem. It gives you confidence to take decisions in your life. Mentors are a great source of learning. They stretch your imaginations, they stretch your perspectives, and they also bring in new dimensions which you may never have thought about. They also help you in decision making, particularly what I call risk mitigation. Because you may see a challenge in front of you and there may be 5 or 6 different options. They can eliminate a couple, which means you only have to focus on making a decision about 3, or maybe even 2, before you have to make that decision. And most importantly, they will tell you the truth. The truth when other parties may not feel that they can do so. And the first mentors in your life and all of our lives are our parents. That is my mother just coming up. And that's the school teacher I want to talk about as my first example. When I was 16, I sat my mock O-levels and I failed every single one of them. And in some cases, I failed them with absolute distinction. And in April of that year, before I went to my O-levels, I was very, very sick. And the doctor told my mother, Tony is sick because he does not want to sit his O-levels. A week later, I was rushed to hospital. And the doctor wrote on my admission certificate, God only knows what he has got. I had rheumatic fever. And for those of you who don't know rheumatic fever, the only way which you get cured is to lie on your back. Not for days, not for weeks, but for months. So I now had the prospect in April of spending the next few months lying in bed. And my mother said to me, Tony, this is a great opportunity. She said, now, you can't go out chasing girls anymore. You can't go and play sport anymore. You can now really focus upon your studies. Yeah, lovely, lovely prospect. And I was inspired not only by her, but by the chemistry teacher you see there, Pete McCarthy. Because every week he would write out the notes from the classes that he was giving, so I received them. He gave me feedback on every bit of input I gave him during the week. But not only that, he corralled all the other teachers so that they would do the same. So every Monday morning, I would get this large envelope of notes and feedback on everything. When I sat the exams in June, I did not expect to pass. And therefore, I was absolutely delighted that in August, when we got the results as they just have now, to pass in 5, some scratchy, but 5 O-levels, which allowed me to go on to A-levels and then take a degree. But why was that so important? It was so important because I had actually changed the shape of my life through input from them, but mostly from myself working. It was really important. I knew that I could make a difference. The second place you find mentors is in the workplace. And when I was 24, I had a number of great bosses who were actually mentors of mine as well. And when he gave my staff appraisal, he said to me, Tony, you're doing great. He ticked all the boxes. And he said, now I want to have an off-the-record discussion with you. you are absolutely wasting your life. Yes, you're being paid highly. Yes, all your costs are being paid for. Yes, you've just found a fiancé, but you are not growing. And by the way, we can't even consider you for promotion until you're 32 years old. Kind of a nice staff appraisal to get. Over a period of 2 weeks, we worked out what I should do. And I then, in 1976, went to Manchester Business School and got an MBA. Another stepping stone for personal growth. But sometimes in your community, amongst your friends, family, and wider community, you are meeting a challenge that you cannot find a mentor. And when that happens, you have to consider hiring a mentor, and that's exactly what I did in the mid-90s when I worked with a man called John O'Neill. What was the challenge? The challenge was my wife was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And she did not know how she could manage her life going forward. I did not know how I would manage my life either. But worst of all, I did not know how to support her. At the same time, I was running my businesses. So for 2 years, John and I worked on a whole scheme of things which we put into place. And the result was outstanding. 85% of men divorced their wives with MS. I did not. Not only did I not do that, today I have a very, very happy marriage. I have a great wife who, despite her being disabled in a wheelchair, is an inspiration to all with her spirit. That's what a mentor can do for you. I want to share one other type of mentor, a business mentor. And I have started up a number of startup businesses. I'm an entrepreneur. And I started in '79. And what I noticed in March this year, I did an analysis. And I found that from 1979 to 1992, I never had a business mentor for some reason or other. And it was during that period of time that I made the most significant mistakes in my businesses, the most significant failures in my own personal life as well. So the title today was The Hero's Journey. And for those of you who know, it comes from a philosopher called Joseph Campbell. And you start off in the ordinary world, and you get a call to change. And most of us, we rebuff that change. We don't make it. But once in a while, you meet a person, a mentor, who says, yes, you can do that. You have the ability to do that. You should do that. And that's usually a mentor, just as, for example, my boss back when I was 24 years old said, yes, I could do my MBA. And then you cross the line. And once you've crossed the line, you're on a new world. Your old boundaries have gone. You have to create new friendships, new allies. You're on trial all the time. And some of the people who were your friends in the past actually may become enemies to you. And then you go in, you don't know if it's going to work, if you're going to be successful, and you face this darkness. Chris mentioned that when he was talking today. And when you come through that part of that journey and you have succeeded, you should take all those learnings, and with those learnings, create a new perspective. And then finally, you return back to your now new ordinary world. I've shared with you one of those darknesses for me was when my wife was diagnosed with MS. I just want to share a couple more very quickly with you. In 1999, my businesses had not done very well sales-wise in 97 and 98. And my forecast was that we would run out of cash and have to close the business in the middle of the year. Armed with mentors and my non-executive directors, we were able to put together a complete revised revision of how we were going forward. And luckily, and I do say luckily, we scraped through in the middle of the year and we became cash positive. And that business, by the way, is still operating to this very day. Only in March this year, I had a similar situation where I have one business which produces me cash and I've got 2 businesses which take the cash. And the business which makes the cash had a change of major shareholder who determined that he wasn't going to pay any more dividends because he wanted to reinvest all the cash in the business, which meant I was faced with having to close 2 businesses. Again, with a bunch of mentors, and I'll come back to that later on, and non-executive, we found a strategy by which we got a dividend and kept those 2 businesses going. The more times you go around this journey and you have this facing the darkness and learning, that's how you grow. And the more times you do it, you actually enhance your own capability. Not only in terms of your own life, personally and business-wise, but you also gain what I call a leadership, because you're starting to serve to lead. And each of us is like a financial balance sheet, which means the greater your assets and strengths, by the way, the greater your liabilities are. And that is why you see geniuses can produce fantastic pieces of work, but they seem to have all the quirks in life as well. A mentor should help you identify what are your weaknesses and what are your liabilities. And then how can you overcome those so that the world only sees your strengths and your assets. But there's one huge challenge which every human being has in that journey, and that is their ego. Because that acts as a massive barrier to your learning and your own capability. And your ability to manage your ego and be humble at all times really helps you with personal growth. So what is this relationship like with the mentor? What is it? Between a mentor and a mentee, the prime responsibility of a mentee is to drive the relationship, to find the relationships. It is not resting with the mentor. The mentor responds, but the driver must be that mentee. But how do you find these mentors? Each one of you has a family, friends around you, a wider community. Amongst that grouping, there must be people today who you can identify. The next stage is reaching out to them. I'll be honest with you. I have never met any human being who is not truly proud when somebody says to them, "Would you mentor me?" They very rarely reject it unless they've got some other compelling reason. But they will never think ill of you. So please reach out. And once you have a mentor, it's really important to understand that this relationship, thank you, is symbiotic. And what I mean by that is that the mentee, of course, wants to receive input from the mentor. But actually the mentor wants to really gain from the relationship. And how do they gain from that relationship? They gain by seeing their mentee grow. They gain by seeing the mentee take the opportunities that they have been given, possibly by the mentor, and building upon them and learning. The mentor gets that back in that relationship in buckets. So when you are looking for a mentor, what should you be looking for? Firstly, trust. Do you trust them? Will they be there for you and tell you the truth when all around you may actually give you a political answer? Do they have your interest at heart? Are they always going to serve you? Do you respect them? And finally, most critically important, they should never have an interest in the outcomes of which they're helping you with. Because if they do, there's a conflict in the way they'll give you direction and support. I'm also a great believer in multiple mentors. That's my mentor gallery. I work with most of them today, those that are alive. And you'll see there that some are older than me, some are younger than me, some are women, and some are men. And I cannot tell you the diversity of feedback I get and perspectives by having such a great group. And as I said earlier, whenever I have a fork in my life, I get the support of 2 or 3 of them to give their feedback to me. So the subject we're talking about is sustainability. How do we achieve sustainability in personal growth? Everyone goes through learning curves, the sigmoid you've all seen. The real key challenge is when you're getting up to the top and you're almost reaching the peak, you should already have found a new learning curve, such that you can then go on the next learning curve and the next one. And each one of those learning, by the way, could well be facing the darkness and learning from that experience. So I have got one question for all of you today. Are you going to get the gift of finding a mentor in your life? Thank you.